Boom. Okay, looks like we are live here on Zoom. Looks like we are live there on Facebook. I'm going to pull up Facebook on the tablet. You guys know how I do all this stuff. Not our first rodeo. All right, got something warm for my throat so I can keep talking and feel good. And welcome into today, everybody. Let's just double check how things look here. Facebook, I see a thumb. I see a thumb. Facebook must be looking pretty good. Okay. Tablet firing up. All right, well, welcome in, everybody. How's everybody doing? Throw me a thumb if you're here and you're excited and you are ready for Clipper Clinic. We did this last week, and I got to tell you, it was one of the most fun programs we shared. I think I got some of the most enthusiastic response from the community off of Clipper Clinic. Lots of comments, lots of people really digging it. Lots of people said they learned a lot, and my goodness, isn't that the point? So we're going to do Clipper Clinic again. This is the 9 o'clock class. 11 o'clock today, brand new class. 11 o'clock today is charity event programming. We're going to talk about how to structure, execute charity events to build business for your hair salon or barbershop. Obviously, we do charity because charity's good for the people that will benefit from it. Charity's good for us, for our heart, for our spirit. Charity's good for all those reasons, and charity can be very good for building business. So we're going to get into it in a big way. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's the 11 o'clock class today. Just a reminder, Thursday, Friday this week. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock is Scissor Over Comb. Tomorrow, 11 o'clock is The 400, a look at business building and your 400 clients. Really, who do you need? Who are you going after? It's going to be about targeting for your market and for your haircut business. So we'll get into that program. We're just getting Facebook up there. And then Friday 9 o'clock in the morning is Razor Line and Edge. And Friday at 11 is with a guest, how to open your barber shop. We're going to talk to a barber, to an experienced professional who has recently opened his own barber shop, and we're going to talk about lessons that he brought to the game, things he did good, things he did learned from. We won't say wrong, we're just going to call them learning experiences. So, all good in that regard. Let's pull this up. Just waiting to get everything flowing so we know we're online and we're looking smart and sharp. So that's our schedule for the week. $100,000 haircutter. Let's jump there quick and early. Let's get that in. Today, $100,000 haircutter, April, or May rather, 13. It is not Friday the 13th, it's Wednesday the 13th. We should all feel safe about that. Wednesday the 13th of May. May 13, day 133, 232 days remaining in the year. That's right. It's not a mistake if you learn from it. That's right. Have a shop recycling program. Have a bin in the front of the shop for empty hair care product packaging. Offer a recycling incentive in the form of a discount for empties returned to the shop. That's right. You buy an AfterBuzz. You want another AfterBuzz. Bring me your empty. We'll chuck it in the recycle bin. We'll give you a discount on your next one. Now, this does a few things. Number one, it recycles the packaging, but of course, you could recycle the packaging at home. Number two, it gives you a reason to come back and buy another one. Number three, it reinforces with customers that people are, in fact, buying and using our products. They see a big bin of Clipper Guy empties in the waiting area. Just great all the way around. Good idea. So this is recycling bin. Be sure to recycle materials used in the delivery of service, anything you use to deliver service. Be sure to recycle often commercial addresses. This is important. Your barbershop or hair salon, a commercial location, may not have curbside recycling like you have at home. They seldom do. You may have to put the bin in the car every week, take it home and dump it in your home recycling container, and that's okay. Many clients see green initiatives as positive reflections on your business. A recycling bin costs nothing for you to add to your business. This is an example of something you can be doing that costs you zero. You may have to buy a plastic bin at Container Store or something like that. How many other things can you say that about that are positive for your business that really cost you a grand total of a big fat nothing? So that's our $100,000 hair cutter tip of the day. It's an environmental tip, it's a marketing tip, it's a sales tip, it's a customer service tip, it's a retail product sales tip. See how deep this book gets in terms of the quality and the value that's included in there? If you don't have a copy yet, get yourself a copy. And remember, with the introduction of the upgraded copies of Big and Bigger, plus 100 by 100, we now have, and I got an email this morning from somebody buying one, we now have the 4-book deal, the package, the bundle of everything, one big smacker. You get it all at a great price. All right, let's just take a look here and make sure we're good with the tablet, with Facebook World. Here we go. Load them up. Yeah, we're looking good. All right, so that's $100,000 hair cutter for today. Has anybody got a date, either in Facebook land or here in Zoom chat? Somebody got a date to take a look at one more day for $100,000 hair cutter? Throw me a day. Michael Zuba from Daytona offers up September 26th. That is the day after my anniversary of September 25, many, many years ago. Let's take a look. September 26th. Here's a pet peeve of mine. Every once in a while, guys, when I wrote the book, it gave me an opportunity, because I'm the author, so it's like a little bully pulpit. It gave me the opportunity to flex a little bit of muscle on some things that are wicked pet peeves. And Michael, I am sure, as an educator and a trainer in the industry, I'm sure you know this tip. I'm sure you believe this tip. I'm sure you have told this to students over and over again for more years than I've known you. All right, are you ready for this one, Michael? September 26th, day 269, with 96 days remaining in the year. At that point, there'll be about 100 days left in the year. Lose a tooth, lose a comb. A comb with a missing tooth is a danger to clients and your reputation. The snaggled end of a broken tooth can scratch a client, tear the skin, and transmit an infection. The instant a tooth breaks, the comb should be tossed in the trash. Period. Combs with missing teeth are highly unprofessional at best and dangerous at worst. Have an ample stock on hand of favorite combs to be able to sustain the loss of a comb at any time. Be prepared. You do not ever use a comb with a missing tooth. That is serious amateur stuff. That is serious. No, we don't ever do that. And guys, you know, when I created the Zoot comb, and this comb is 2 years old in July, not this one, but the invention of and the release of the Zoot comb is 2 years in July. And I've got more than a dozen of them on my station. I've got 6 of them here in my toolkit that I use for classes and education. I probably have no less than 24 of these in service right now. Not a single one has ever broken a tooth ever. I've never thrown one away because I've ever broken a tooth. We used a very specific material that is very flexible. It is very workable, but it's absolutely unbreakable. I've never lost a tooth off one of these combs. And I'm a stickler, especially the cheapy clipper combs. Those are, you know, you get a dozen of those for nothing. You bust a tooth, you immediately throw those combs away. You either invest in quality and never be sorry, which is what Michael just said, or when you buy cheapies, you buy a box full and you throw them away. You just throw them away, but you never use a comb with a broken tooth. That's such a, you know, day one of barber school kind of conversation. there's a safety element to it. There's a professional element to it. There's a dignity element to it. You just don't want to be using a crappy comb. And I see people that have that favorite comb that was handed down from generations that they're still using, and the thing looks like, you ever seen a comb for a bald guy? It's got no teeth. Come on, guys. All right. So that's $100,000 hair cutter for the day. We got that out of the way. Let's get into Clipper Clinic. I got a ton of stuff to share. The time flew by when we did this last time. We had a great time with it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm bringing clippers out of the archives. All of these are clippers that I own. Almost none of these are clippers that I've paid for. I've never paid for clippers. When I worked for Andis for so many years, obviously clippers were free. My friends at Wall, Oster, these guys all send me samples and prototypes and all kinds of things, so I'm happy to have them. But we can learn a lot from them. Last time out, we talked about motors. We talked about pivot motors, rotary motors, and magnetic motors, and their differences in power and torque. And if you guys have any questions about that, I will cover the motors on the clippers we look at. But some of these are clippers that I used cutting hair behind the chair in the shop. Some of these are prototypes, and some of these are clippers that have never been used that I strictly have for collectability purposes. So let's take a deep dive in here and look at what we can find. First one up is a Wall corded senior. Now, before we got to cordless with lithium ion, because before we got to lithium ion, cordless kind of sucked. There was not a cordless clipper out there that I liked, and there was not a cordless clipper out there that I used. But before we went to cordless, this was kind of the king of the hill for Wall for many, many years. The unique thing about this is it's Wall's magnetic motor clipper, high speed, lower torque, adjustable blade, standard Wall blade that takes the standard Wall guards. And this is one that I actually used. I used this for many, many years. Both when I work for chains as well as in my own shop. This clipper right here has thousands of haircuts underneath it, thousands of haircuts behind it in its history. Was a great workhorse tool. The unique things about this clipper was for the Walls, it had the solid metal lower case. So like an Andis Master, the case on this one at the bottom was solid metal. The cover, of course, is plastic screwed on there. But there's a unique feature to the cover that I want to point out to you guys that I always loved about the Wall Senior. What's been really cool about it is this grooving right here. See that groove right there? They had it on a few other models, but very specifically, that groove in the case was a feature of the Wall Senior. And I want you to watch what's so cool about it. I'm going to hold the clipper properly for tapering, just like that. And when I hold the clipper properly for tapering, you'll see that my thumb lays right into that groove. It's like got a molded grip on it that makes it perfect for you to hold and perfect for you to cut with. It's a little heavy compared to like the Wall Designer. It's got more motor in there, more coil winding, so it's a little bit of a heavier tool. But it was balanced well and it felt great. And that's how you would hold a Wall Senior. I would tell people you lay your thumb right into that groove right like that. Now, here's something cool. When you flip the clipper around to go to Backhand Technique, watch me now. I'm going to turn the clipper over, and when I go to grab it backhand, that thumb groove is still in the perfect position for me to grab my comb to do my backhand cutting technique. So that groove for that thumb, look, it's shaped like your thumb. It was perfect for backhand cutting. I want the cord in the way. It was perfect for backhand cutting, and it was perfect for forehand tapering. So I give Wall a lot of credit. I always very much loved the shape and the contour of the upper housing on the Wall Senior. It's still a rock solid clipper. You can still buy them today. If you're not ready to go cordless, or if you're not as crazy about cordless because of the volume that work you do, this clipper today is still an excellent tool and an excellent choice for hair cutters. That's your Wall Senior, and that's a legitimate one of mine. That's a real one from my collection. Now, we're going to put on our Wayback hat. We're going to go to the Wayback machine. We're not going to go that far back. Actually, we're going to go back to the beginning of my career in the business, because when I started in the industry, this clipper was for sale. This clipper was in use. I used this one a little, not a lot, but a little. And this is a Andis Model SM. Now, it was also referred to as a Speedmaster under some labels. This one happens to be in their Trendsetter line, and it's an adjustable clipper. It's also a magnetic motor, but unlike the Andis Master, this one is a plastic housing. And it was about the same power level as a Master. It was about the same, it's exact same speed as a Master because it's a magnetic motor. Adjustable blade. The Andis Master blade fits this tool. They got a little hot. That was the nature of magnetics back in the day. But what a lot of people liked about this one is it was chunky. It was kind of fat. It was a little shorter than the detachables of the day, which were a little bit longer because of the need for the rotary motor and the drive mechanism. But the SM was really a good clipper. Now, the thing about this clipper is, every time I put a picture of it online, every time I share a picture of it on social media, somebody wants to buy it from me. Somebody wants to buy this clipper from me. And it's not for sale. I have about 3 of them. I don't really use them anymore. I wouldn't really use them in a shop situation, but I think compared to some other models of their generation, I don't think this tool was produced in as high of volumes. There weren't as many of them out there because a lot of people, for a little more money, considering this, would just jump up to the Master. But it had its fans. It had its legion of dedicated users out there, people that really liked it. So that's an Andis Model SM. Was called a Speedmaster in some cases. In this case, it was called a Trendsetter Adjustable. And I even remember where I bought this one because this is one that I paid for. I owned this clipper before I worked for or had a working relationship with the Andis company. I actually paid money for it. It's one of the few in my collection that fits that description. I'm actually going to spray the blade because the blade on this is super dry and I want to prevent it from rusting or corroding. This is clipper side. Obviously, every clipper, every trimmer, every client, every time. This is your go-to. This is your disinfectant. This is your coolant. This is your light lubricant. This is your blade cleaner. This is your 5-in-1. This is every clipper, every time. So keeping that blade saturated, you know, I keep these in dry storage, but there's still humidity and moisture in the air, and I don't want to see that blade rust or oxidize. I don't want to see that blade get ruined. So that's an Andis Speedmaster. Now, the next clipper here, like everything from not everything, but like a lot of things from Andis, this is a trimmer, and this one's a little unique. The basic design of this trimmer was offered in the Andis line. It was first introduced in a brand Andis had called Experience, which was the next generation after Trendsetter, but I forget what they called this model. I want to say it was sold as, yeah, it's a PMT2. It's a pivot motor trimmer. And what's unique about this trimmer, pivot motors, remember, 2 magnets, 2 springs, pivot motors tended to be fat clippers because of the room or the space needed for the pivot armature. Now, they sold this as a PTX was what it was called in the Experience line, and I don't remember the name of it as a regular Andis because this one is not labeled Experience. This is part of the regular Andis line, but it's their PMT2. I don't think it's still made. I could be mistaken. I don't know that. I don't know that it matters. But it was a pivot motor, so it was quiet, it was smooth, it was torquey, and it was a great, really, really nice trimmer. Now, the problem they had with them originally, they had a little bit of a production issue with them. They were noisy. The pivots on these tend to rattle. They got noisy. And part of that was because of the narrow case. They would rattle inside the case just a little bit. And people thought there was something wrong with them. There was nothing wrong with them. They were just noisy. But the unique feature, PMT1, or PMT, before this, the Pivot Pro was a great, we sold so many of those. They were made in China. They were very inexpensive, and we sold a ton of that trimmer. But that trimmer was fat. That trimmer was like holding a Princess telephone. It was kind of thick and beefy. So for a trimmer, it was a lot to handle. It was like sized like a clipper, but really was a trimmer with its teeth. And there were a couple of different tooth patterns on it. This one has the shallow teeth that was very much like a T outliner. And the PMX in the Experience line had their deep tooth blade. It had a wider and deeper tooth that had a higher feed rate that was specifically better for cosmetologists who would do more over trimmer work as opposed to barbers that were more prone to just line and edge with it. So PMT2 was a weird one. It was an odd one. This one was a sample. It's really clean. I think this one was probably used maybe twice. I probably used it for a video shoot or something, but never really put any miles on it. So beautiful tool in perfect condition. That's your PMT2 from Andis. Next up on the list, and this I have two of these here. One of them is a stock tool. The black one is stock. The white one is custom. And I'm going to explain what's going on here. Andis called this model the Edger and the T-Edger. It had either a square blade or a T-style blade. For longest time, people call them PB trimmers or peanut butter trimmers because of the color of the casing. It's kind of a beige brown, kind of a pukey color, but that was unique. It's what it was. So Model AE is your magnetic motor. Very small housing, very compact, really great. It had the smallest and narrowest trimmer blade you could purchase. And a lot of people liked it. It's an old school barber tool. Would I ever sell anything from my personal collection? At this point in time, the answer is no. Down the road, I'm sure I will sell off almost all of this. I get it up on eBay because you know what? My kids aren't going to want these things, and my grandchildren are not going to understand or appreciate these things. And at some point in time, you know, maybe I could buy an island in the Caribbean with the money if I sold it all. And it would be cool if there's somebody that wants them could buy them all instead of onesie twosie, but I'm just not there yet. I'll get there. Stay in touch with me. But Model AE, narrow blade, magnetic motor, little, very compact tool, kind of fun. Now, because the blade was so small, there were people that liked to use this for design work and to get really close. But as you know with all trimmers, the last tooth on the end is always wide and fat. So this is the black edger, not the T-edger because it doesn't have a T-blade. Now, please know the difference between a T-edger and an edger was just changing the blade. If I ordered up a T-blade, and I'm sure Andis still makes the T-blades, I could put a T-blade on here, good to go. It'd be perfectly fine. So, because people were using these for designs, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but remember I talked about the big fat tooth on the end? This one, the brown one, was customized for me. As I bring them in close, can you see the difference in the two blades? On the brown one, we angled off the sides of the non-moving blade to narrow out the blade. Basically what they did is the machinists ground off the wide, fat edge tooth. Should be able to see that, especially against my t-shirt. This one has the custom blade. This one has the stock blade. Well, what that allowed the trimmer to do is it allowed it to cut all the way to the corner. All the way to the corner. Normally you couldn't cut all the way into the fat corner on that. And by the way, would I ever sell stuff? This is an example of something I will never sell. I'll keep in my collection. And the thing is, again, when I talk about my kids and my grandkids not appreciating it, to anybody picking this up out of a box, that's just an old trimmer. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it does. Yeah, you want that? That's an old trimmer. Take it away. But for somebody who knows and understands how the tool works, you take a close look at that and you go, wait a minute, this is different. And I actually have them customize a whole bunch of these blades. I think I still have half a dozen of them back here that can be put on any one of these anytime. And by the way, one other thing when we talk about customizing, my T outliners and my edgers, if you look closely, and it's been done to both of these, you may be able to see it here. I'm not sure if you can see, but when I twist it in the light, right underneath my fingertip, between the corner and the corner of the hair guard, you see a crease in the metal? The metal's got a little fold in it right there. Now, normally that hair guard is straight and flat. What I used to do with these when I got these out of the box is I would unscrew the 2 screws and I would take off the hair guard, and I would bend the corners of the hair guard in. I would angle them in on both sides, and then I would reinstall the hair guard. That pulled the hair guard close into the sides, because if it was sticking out a little bit, more hair would get inside the trimmer. You'd have to open it up and clean it from time to time, and occasionally that hair guard, especially if it got lifted slightly, would catch on things. So that was one of my own little unique modifications. Specifically, the hair guard exists on T-outs and on T-edgers, and I would always make that slight adaptation, kind of just me tweaking my tools. Does that make sense? Let's move on. That's some custom. Now, next up, we want to salute a veteran. We want to acknowledge and pay respect to a true classic. Now, in the world of trimmers at Andis, the T-outliner, I think, gets a lot of mojo. Everybody knows that gray tool, the T-outliner. Everybody loves it. T-outliner, T-outliner, T-outliner. But for many, many years, quietly slaving away right next to the T-outliner on the shelf in the stores, hanging on a hook in so many barbers' collections, was the Stai Liner. Now, the Stai Liner was a magnetic motor, they still make them, popular trimmer for many, many years. Now, this particular one was from the last period of my employment at Andis when they updated it. They gave it a new updated cover, and they gave it a new updated switch. They just kind of polished it up a little. They smoothed the corners. They rounded the corners a little. It was a way of saying to an old tool, we love you, and we know you still have many, many years left in you. What are your thoughts on the modified skeleton trimmer T-outliners where they're cutting the top off near the cutting blade? You know, I've seen a lot of these skeleton. I actually have a skeleton in the other room. I don't particularly use them. There's nothing wrong with them. Some people have done it to open up the blade area for visual purposes. Other people have done it because they believe the motor gets better air or it breathes better. We talked about it because it was first getting popular when I was at Andis, that people were doing the cutaways on these housings. And it's not unsafe. It's not, you know, the thing is double insulated. You're not going to get a shock from using it. You can get your hand and fingers right up on the vibrating armature. It's personal choice. I don't think it makes the trimmer work any better or worse in any way, shape, or form. Let me go grab one. For people that don't know what you're talking about, I want to get one so people can see it. Hang on a second. For anybody, sorry about that, had to step away for a minute. For anybody who doesn't know what Pierre's referring to, this is a skeleton T-outliner. Now, this one has a little silicone cover on it that's put over it, but you can see what they've done is they've cut down the housing just above the top housing screw, and they sell, somebody gave me a sample of this free shield that goes over the top. That's to keep the hair out of the mechanism and to keep that clean and everything. You put that little shield over the top of it. But this is a skeleton T-out, and it's been cut away like this. If you plug it in and turn it on, that's literally the moving clipper armature. That's the blade attached to the housing frame. It doesn't really change the way the tool works. It looks a little cool. When they first started doing them, they were kind of gee whiz cool looking, but I don't think there is an argument for or against doing it in any way. People like to, since we were cavemen, and since we first discovered tools, we've been modifying those tools. We've been trying to make those tools work better. And this is an attempt on people's parts to modify these tools. So that's a outliner, not a T, just a square blade outliner skeleton with a rubber shield on it. That way we know what we're talking about here. Part of learning what that's all about. But there were people that were doing that skeleton modification to style liners. They could only cut the front of the housing though, because on the back of the housing, the rear upper screws are so very high and you couldn't cut below there or the housing wouldn't be able to be closed up on it. So it never really was. There's a tool, I don't know if I have it in the collection here. Maybe I do. Let me see if I have one. No, I don't have one here with me. The Stai Liner M3, which was the metal version of this, the magnesium housing, they would cut away just the top of the front. It didn't really serve the purpose of doing that skeleton technique. But Stai Liner was a great tool for so many years. Stai Liner 2 was the updated version of it. Just a workhorse of the industry and a fabulous tool all the way around. All right, what's next in the pile? This is kind of fun, and this one has a unique story. This is an Andis, it's called a Junior. Now, a Junior is an Andis name from many, many, many decades ago. It was their compact clipper. I think I showed a Junior last week. Well, they resurrected the Junior name around the turn of the century. In this, it was called an SCT. That was small clipper trimmer. And I was involved in helping get this thing launched, and it was a great little tool. The story is, it was basically worked off of the blade. Andis owned this blade from an entirely different tool that they had sold in the consumer end of the business. And the question became, how do we use this blade in pro beauty and barber? Can we create a tool? So they created this tool to go with that blade. And the truth of the matter is, this was really designed to compete with a wall peanut. It was in that same category, and let's be honest, the peanut sucks. This kind of sucks too. It's not a great tool, but it's a fun little tool. It's a compact tool. It worked. The problem is, if you look at the tooth pattern, it's too aggressive. It's not really a clipper, because it can't do big clipper work. And it's not really a trimmer, because it can't cut clean like a trimmer. We sold them like popcorn. We did a version of it called Ruby, that was ruby red colored, and we did a version of it called Lola that was hot pink. And we had a lot of fun marketing it and playing with it, and I want to tell you, we sold a boatload of them. And for the people that were buying them, I think it was a good little tool. Could you block a sideburn? Sure. Could you do a little clipper over comb? Absolutely. But it was not a serious barber tool in any measure. Now, I want to show you something that is part of the Junior story, but a unique part of my story, and this is cool. This was called a texture pack. This was sold specifically to work with the Junior clipper. Now, the cool thing about it is, I hold the patent on this. The way it worked when I worked at Andis was, if you came up with an idea or an invention and they were going to develop it, you would work with the engineer, and once the patent was issued, we got a patent for this, the patent was issued jointly in my name and the name of the engineer that worked together with me on this. Let me show you what these were. They were called texture guards. Now, I have them here in a little bag, and what I have, I'm going to pull them out. I have them in a gray color, and these were the prototypes that we were working with when we were building them. And then I have them in the lime green, which was the color we actually produced and sold them in. Now they're labeled with numbers on them, and you'll see when we introduced them, because these are pre-production prototypes, we screen printed them with numbers right on them. So this is a 3T. 3, because it's got 3 notches, T for texture. And I want you to see what these did. These are what we called overlap guards. When you put that guard on the blade, see how it overlaps the blade completely? This is where I have the patent. This was my idea. The guard overlaps the blade, and it blocks the blade except for those little gaps. So this was it was like a thinning or a blending scissors for your clipper. Cool idea. You would put the guard on, then you would take a comb, and you would be able to lift up the hair. Let me show you how these would work. These were kind of cool. You'd be able to lift up the hair and feed this through the hair with that texture guard, and it allowed the clipper to become a texture tool. This was kind of a cool idea back in the day. Now that's a 3T that was kind of chunky. This one, look at that one, that's a 4T. Look at the difference between 3 and 4. The spaces are much bigger, allowing more hair in. That's going to create a much chunkier pattern. This, I think, was 6T. Look at how small those are. When you put that on, see how that overlaps or protects the blade? That's going to cut very little hair in a very small or slight pattern. So this one was like a blending scissors. You would come in and blend right along the haircut like that. These were really cool. They came in a 4-pack, and remember, made in China, tiny little plastic. Our cost on these was basically nothing. So we use these to sell a whole lot of these. Buy one of these, we'll give you a texture pack for free. And I would stand up on stage at shows, demo the tool, and then demo the texture pack. And everybody wanted these. You see how everybody would want these? Anybody liking these? Anybody thinking this is a cool idea? Throw me a thumb if you think that was kind of a cool idea. Throw me a thumb, come on. No, they were cool. They were a lot of fun. And man, when we demoed these at a show, everybody had to have them. These were awesome. So these are my samples, my prototypes. This is an actual sample of what we actually sold. This, by the way, is an example. This tool and these I would never sell, because these are the kind of things that I will tell this story to my grandchildren, to tell them about when Grandpa came up with an idea, when Grandpa actually had a good idea and invented something. So that's a neat little piece of my Andis history. That's an SCT Junior and the SCT Junior texture pack. Kind of a neat tool in a niche category. All right, now I'm going to show you a fun tool and tell you a funny story about a friend. I showed you the Junior, and I showed you the texture pack. Not too many people have one of these. This is called a Baker debulker, and it was the product of a hair cutter, a hairdresser named Michael Baker from New Orleans, who created a trimmer. This is his little trimmer, and he basically infringed on our patent. He created a series of texture guards just like this. Notice it's a similar concept that is designed to let you use these. They're different than mine. They're big and fat. They have different spacings, but they block the blade in the same way that my texture pack guards block the blade on the SCT Junior. It's also a low-end, crappy Chinese trimmer with a, hang on, the blade popped off there. I'm going to have to snap that blade back in take that guard off. It's a crappy trimmer with a hybrid blade. It's not a clipper, it's not a trimmer. It comes with some regular trimmer guards so that you can use it like a regular clipper or trimmer, and it's not charged up. It's been sitting in the box for years. Literally, this one has never been used. But he promoted it as a tool for doing all kinds of creative hairdressing work with texture using his unique guards. And the funny thing was, he told me about it, he gave me a sample of it, and when he showed it to me, I said to him, I said, you know, Michael, and I'd known him for years, he was a friend, passed away last year, he was a good friend. I said to him, I said, you know, Michael, you do know I hold the patent on that guard. And he laughed and he said, yeah, we saw that when we did our research, but we saw that you weren't using it. Andis wasn't selling those guards at the time. We saw that you weren't using it, and we took a chance on infringing on the patent. Well, I think that's one of the reasons that the product went away very quickly. It was sold for a very short time. I think Andis became aware. So you're blocking some hair just to give some texture. Nicholas, exactly. That's exactly what Michael attempted to do with this. That was a copy of or an infringement on the patent that I have for the tool that I created for that. That's exactly what you're doing. You're essentially creating a version of that, albeit with some different texture. That's exactly what we're doing. We're blocking portions of the blade. So that one there's the Baker Debulker, which was that kind of cool ripoff of my patent. So he was a friend, didn't bother me. We made a lot of money with it. If a buddy can make some money, let's go for it. Next up, now, this is a box from an Andis Master. Looks like an Andis Master, right? Wait till you see what I have in here. If this isn't cool, ain't nothing cool. There's a guy in Chicago who owns Funk's Barbershop, Lawrence Funk. And he also owns Funk's Custom Clippers. Now, I gave him an Andis Master clipper, and about 6 weeks later, this is what he gave me back. Check this out. This is beautiful, okay? This is, you can even see he's got some sparkle in the look of the logo. That is my Clipper Guy logo and my Clipper Guy icon and some pinstriping along the side in a beautiful, beautiful finished custom clipper. Now, to tell you, not for, I don't need to tell you, it will never be used. Okay, this is just a special collectible for me in my collection, created by a buddy. And by the way, he'll make you one. He'll charge you a lot of money for it. He gets, I think, not including the clipper, customs like this are north of $400, not including the clipper. They're north of $400. But this one was given to me as a gift, and I was honored and lucky to have it. Yeah, it's absolutely, Roger, it works perfectly. It's absolutely brand new, brand new box Andis Master. It's 100% factory workable, new, totally legit. But I've never cut hair with it, and I never will. It's too cool. It's too nice. I literally have the original packaging that the clipper came in, and then, of course, he bubble wrapped it when he presented it to me, when he gave it to me after it was created. Funk's Custom Clippers, he's in Chicago. Look him up online. Look at his Instagram. He does custom stuff like this for sports teams and celebrities and individual barbers and things like that. Unique and very, very special tool, hidden in a box to look like anybody's regular master clipper. So that's kind of cool. While we're on the subject of masters, while we're on the subject of special masters, this was about the end of my career at Andis, was 2012, which was the company's 90th anniversary. This is a box from a limited edition 90th anniversary master. There was a time when these were sold for the regular price of a master. I think these were sold for about $1.25 back in the day. After the original, going for as much as $850 online. I haven't seen pricing on them since, but when you open this one up, there was a really cool high gloss picture of the 90th anniversary from the 1920s to 2010. Matt L. Andis was my boss when I worked there. Matt K. Andis, his son, took over when I was working one of those. Yeah, Roger, it's a basic master. This one's unopened in the box. It's in there. I'm not opening it. This one's unopened in the original box. I have another one. And what you see about this one is, if you look at the serial number on it, when they first is a 90th anniversary master, cover plate on it. When they first introduced them, the first 100 clips by serial number were, and this one right here, 1922, the day they were found, 071. So it's in the first 100 units made. Makes it a little more valuable, maybe even a little more collectible. This one has been used once or twice, and then it was simply put away. Anniversary, low serial number model. It's just a basic master. The guts and everything, it's a basic master clipper. But it is my introduction low serial number model. So I have a pair of them. I've got that one, and then I've got the unopened version of the 90th anniversary. Now, two other clippers I want you guys to see. One is and one is not enough clippers here. We'll do Clipper Clinic episode 3. And this one has a real special place in my world because when I was in last week, I showed you my beauty. It was an Oster. This is also an Oster, and this motor, cordless, probably one of the best cordless clippers in its day. It's got an offset rotary and a snap-in blade, and it features a texture patent on that texture guard, even a guard that covers a portion of the blade to create some texturizing. Mine was a snap-on guard, which is why our patent was different, as opposed to a built-in pop-up guard. In the cutting position, this is just a hair cutting clipper. It came with no guards. There were no guards for it. This was used only over comb. It was an incredible clipper over comb clipper. Now, the special story about it was they were not available very much here in the U.S., but it was extremely popular in Canada. They sold a ton of these in the Canadian market. And this one was 30 years old. The battery on this is still good as gold. The real story was, I just got into the business when I was a shampoo assistant, when I was a shampoo girl working in a fancy salon. I apprenticed for a guy. His name was Sal. And Sal was an expert in short hair cutting. Sal is what got me bugged, got me into short hair. Sal's clientele was almost all female, cute little pixie cuts, great little short hair. And this was cut clip and blend. He was masterful at short hair. And I got the short hair bug from Sal. And I watched him use this clipper, and I believed if I had one of these, I would be that danger of this clipper is the non-moving blade is a piece of stamped metal, meaning, or you hold up hair, or you come in against the, it cuts very comb, very close. There's no margin for error. So in order to use the clipper well, it was lightweight, it was very powerful, and for its time, the battery life was extremely, extremely good. You couldn't lose with this thing, except you had to have a high level of skills to use it well. First chance I got, first time I found one, I think I picked this up at the Allied Beauty Association show in Toronto. This is another rare example of a tool that I actually spent my own real money to have. I bought it. Yeah, I did. I bought it. And I used it. And it improved my skills. But most importantly, this one really, you know, you talk about mentors and you talk about emulating people who you see, people who do things who you want to be like. I believe this clipper would allow me to be like Mike. You know, you want to slam dunk like Jordan, you got to have Air Jordans. You want to cut hair like Sal, you kind of had to have the clipper. And that's where my history. I don't even know what this model was called. I'm trying to see anywhere on here. Like all other Oster clippers, while they have numerical 520-09C. I don't even know what it was made, though, not made, and it was specifically, it says right on the back here, Oster Canada, available as a Canadian imported product, but it ran on U.S. current. This is the charge cord, and there's a voltage switch on here. So in order to use this in a foreign country, all you need was put an adapter on the plug, switch it to 240, and it had worldwide voltage on it. So kind of made it a great tool. So that's my little Oster cord tool place in my lexicon. Now, the last tool I want to take a look at today is one of my all-time favorite clippers. I'm going to take it out of the box. I'll show you the box, and I'll tell you what I like about this clipper is this clipper was the idea, and boy, I had a bunch of these. I still have a few of these left. This one's brand new, never been used. This clipper is called an Easy. Now this is compact, lightweight, rotary motor. This clipper is a really great example of Judge. Now, we didn't sell a lot of these because people didn't believe in these. People thought, oh, it's made in China, it's kind of junky. People thought, oh, it's small, it's kind of junky. People thought it's really light, kind of junky. I love this clipper. It was lightweight, quiet, it was rotary, so it ran cool. It had a clicking adjustment level I really liked. It used a standard blade, so it took standard guards, and it was perfect for backhand cutting. It would the side, and it was a clipper. I think you could buy an Easy Stai full price. You could buy one of these at a show for maybe $50. They were not expensive at all. And it's a really great example of don't let the price deceive you. Don't let the size or weight deceive you. I think we had trouble believe it was as powerful as it was because it was so small, light, and compact. For all my time with the Andis Company, this clipper is absolutely a top 3 favorite of mine. A top 3 favorite of mine. I probably have to put in that category. Next time we'll talk about the MVP. be a top 3. So much involvement in creating it. And then there's a specialty tool that I'm not sure if I have one. I'm going to have to look around and see if I have it. But that's also a favorite of mine. But shared a lot of fun, great clippers. Let's go to Q&A. Has anybody got any questions about anything we talked about or anything we didn't during Clipper Clinic today? Really just a deep dive into Clipper archives and Clipper history. Anybody? Anything you want to know? Okay, couple of reminders. With guards in the set, the most popular purchase on the web, these classes and everything, has been this right here. +1. Zoot comb guards +1. Sold a lot of them. Nicholas, it's hard to answer that question because it's what are you going to do with it? There's a right clipper, wrong clipper for every job. For guard cutting is not right for high-speed clipper. And the clipper that's right for dry hair tapering is not the clipper for damp hair for layering and things like that. So the best way to store an old clipper. I wrap the cords up, I oil them so the blades are saturated well with oils, and cool, dry place. So you don't have a lot of humidity and moisture in the air that's going to load the blade. A71, what do you think about Master? Their patent. I invented the blade. On a napkin in the airport in Los Angeles. I was sitting in the bar waiting for my flight in the lines, and I came up with 000 to 1, and we had the Fade Master 50 to 000, and I said, what if we made the blade thick? And we had a master that went 1, 1A, 1.5, 2. That was my idea. And if you look it up, my name is on the patent for the Fat Master blade. So that one's got a special place in my history in the business myself. I literally created the Fat Master. I brought that drawing, my idea for what it would look like and how it would work. Just said, take your drawing down to engineering and have them assign an engineer to you who will work with you to help you do that. And I got to tell you, we didn't get it right the first time. It took a few blades before we figured out how to make that work. It was a lot of fun to work on that project. Other questions or comments before we move on? All right, we're going to be back at 11 o'clock for charity programming, how to structure and execute charity event programming in the beauty and barber business to help you build and grow your business. That's what we're taking a look at next. We'll be coming up at 11 o'clock. So take a break and come again. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Have a great